Rory McIlroy was supposed to be fighting for a strong start to the FedEx Cup playoffs. Instead, he finished 66th. But that result may not be the biggest concern, because behind Rory's disastrous week in Memphis was another story unfolding quietly, one involving PGA Tour chief Brian Rolapp, Rory's future on the tour, and a conversation that could have major consequences for what happens next. And now Rory has just days to figure out what went wrong. So what exactly is happening with Rory McIlroy? And why did his talks with the PGA Tour suddenly become so important? Let's go back to where this story really began. Rory McIlroy entered the FedEx St. Jude Championship knowing that his game wasn't where he wanted it to be. But he almost didn't play. The opening playoff event wasn't originally high on Rory's schedule. Then came discussions with PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolapp. Those conversations helped change Rory's thinking. McIlroy ultimately decided to show up in Memphis, making it clear that supporting the PGA Tour and its new leadership mattered to him. On paper, it looked like the right decision, but what happened next was anything but encouraging. Rory opened with a 74, then came a 70, then a 72, and another 72, 4 rounds, 8 over par, and a 66th place finish out of 68 players. For a player of Rory's caliber, that isn't just another disappointing tournament. It's a warning sign, and Rory didn't try to hide it. After the tournament, McIlroy openly admitted that he feels lost with his swing and is nowhere near where he needs to be. Think about that for a moment. This is Rory McIlroy, a 4-time major champion, former world #1, and one of the biggest stars in professional golf. And he's openly saying that he doesn't have his game figured out. But here's where the story gets even more interesting. Because while Rory is trying to rediscover his golf game, there's another issue involving his PGA Tour status. McIlroy is currently on course to make only 14 starts this season. The PGA Tour's rules require 15 events for players to maintain certain membership privileges, although Rory has a special status because of his career and history on the tour. That means something has to be figured out, and that's where Brian Rolapp enters the picture again. Rory has indicated that discussions with Rolapp have been productive. The expectation is that a compromise can be reached. So this isn't a story about Rory leaving the PGA Tour. It's not a story about him abandoning the tour, but it is a story about one of golf's biggest stars negotiating how he fits into the tour's future. And that makes his decision to play in Memphis even more fascinating. Rory wanted to support the tour. He wanted to be there. He had conversations with the new leadership. He showed up, and then he delivered one of his worst performances of the season. That raises a very uncomfortable question. Was Rory's problem simply his golf swing, or is there something bigger weighing on him? Because Rory's 2026 season has already been a strange one. There have been incredible moments. There have been expectations that only a player of Rory's stature can carry. And there has been the constant pressure of trying to remain one of the faces of professional golf while the PGA Tour continues working through a period of enormous change. Now the pressure gets even higher. The BMW Championship is next. And unlike Memphis, there is no room for Rory to simply disappear into the field. Only 50 players remain in the FedEx Cup playoffs at this stage. Every round matters. Every mistake becomes more expensive. And Rory now arrives carrying questions that weren't there before. Can he fix his swing? Can he regain confidence? Can he turn around his playoff campaign? And perhaps most importantly, can he prove that Memphis was simply a horrible week, rather than the beginning of something much bigger? Because Rory knows something everyone watching knows too. At this level, you don't get unlimited time to find yourself, and the clock is already ticking. The strange part is that Rory's biggest problem right now might not be his position on the FedEx Cup leaderboard. It might not even be his PGA Tour membership situation. It could simply be confidence. Because when a player as accomplished as Rory McIlroy says he feels lost, people listen. And after finishing 66th in Memphis, everyone will be watching what he does next. Maybe this is nothing more than one terrible tournament. Maybe Rory walks into the BMW Championship and suddenly finds the swing that has made him one of the greatest players of his generation. But if he doesn't, then the conversation changes completely. Suddenly, we're not talking about one bad week. We're talking about whether Rory McIlroy is entering one of the most difficult stretches of his career. And that's why the next tournament could tell us far more than Memphis ever did. Because Rory came to the FedEx Cup playoffs looking for momentum. Instead, he left with questions. And now, all eyes are on him. Will Rory bounce back, or are we watching the beginning of a much bigger problem? We'll find out at the BMW Championship.